who's owned a vintage Rolls Royce will know that the biggest problem with those cars was the braking system. The braking system was overly complex, and as a result required constant servicing, and if you didn't service it, it became dangerous to use. Unlike modern cars where you basically set it and leave it and you never touch it, and possibly just change the brake fluid every half a decade or so. The older Rolls Royces required constant fluid flushes. They kept leaking from various valves and needed things rebuilt quite frequently. So several people have done conversions to conventional braking systems. I've seen some pretty hideous hack jobs where people have welded large brackets under the car to fit vacuum boosters. I've seen where people have put remote vacuum boosters in the trunk, and all of it looks just really unprofessional. I'm sure it's functional, but doesn't look very good. So what I've done is I've taken the ABS Power Brake electric booster kit and modified the original pedal box to accept that master cylinder. So this is the pedal box out of a 1975 Corniche. And originally it would have been a little bit longer. It would have come out like that. And at the end of it, at least on the early cars, there was a very small conventional master cylinder that was bolted through here. That was later removed as Rolls-Royce realized, it was quite useless. And looking at the mechanism and how the linkage worked, it actually provided very little support, if any. So it was later removed, but my car still had it, but it makes no difference. So what I've done is I've cut away some material here because on the Corniche, at least, I'm not sure of the Shadow, there's a piece of frame that's very close by at the end of this rat trap. So you can't really come out too far. So in order to reduce that distance and to reduce the sort of internal stresses of pivoting over such a large distance, I've brought the master cylinder inwards by cutting a piece of this off, reproducing this bracket. This is originally made in aluminum, but I chose to go with steel, as now the master cylinder is wider, and so the mounting ears stick out. So the forces are going to be considerably more on the edge here as opposed to here where the forces would be internal. So just as an overbuilt safety precaution, I made it out of steel. I'm sure aluminum would have been fine. I reused some existing holes that were on it and moved it forward. The linkage and linkage mechanism here is all original. I've just modified it. I've shortened this push rod, and I've put in a bushing into the pivot here for the push rod in order to fit the 1/4-inch dowels that Rolls-Royce uses. And the pedal position is now exactly the same as where it was originally. These springs are actually not necessary. These are not the original Rolls-Royce springs. The master cylinder has springs internally, so you don't actually need a return spring anymore. Whereas because the previous system had several hydraulic valves here, which didn't actually spring back, you needed a return spring. This is no longer necessary. The original brake light switch is retained in the exact same position. And it clears and fits inside the car perfectly. My car is a left-hand drive car, so we are looking at it as if we are looking at the driver's side of the car. And so the transmission would be here, the exhaust would be on the other side. And so your outputs here are, this is for the rear calipers, this is for the front calipers, and this is from the high pressure pump. And then we have 2 reservoir fittings. We have one here from the rear braking system, and then one up here at the top that's part of the pump source. So these can be swiveled and rotated into wherever you like. In theory, you could have actually joined these 2 together and moved that out. I just chose to leave it as is, routing the hoses sideways. Yeah, and that's basically it. Wesley Kagan has designed his own, CNC'd his own brackets and done some fancy stuff, and that's great. He likes to do that kind of stuff, but you don't have to get that complicated. You can do something really simple like this. And even this bracket, the one I made like this, is not even necessary. You can just weld 2 pieces of 1-inch angle iron here and then bolt the master cylinder to that. This is not even necessary. I chose to do it like this because I wanted to look really neat and copy the same style that Rolls-Royce had, but it's strictly not necessary. You can just modify the existing pedal box or rat trap without any new parts, except for maybe a bushing here, and you have a really neat and OEM looking solution that will likely outlive the car.